Hello, ENG 1060, Comp 2, Module 5. We are here at weeks 10 and 11. You have hopefully submitted your full, final, and beautiful annotated bibliography. And now we're going to work toward actually writing our research essay. I know you're so excited. I am actually, though, now that you've done all of this great research and you feel ready and you feel like some kind of expert in your particular topic, now we'll get to talk about making some great choices with the content that you have. Okay, so this is going to run, this module is running April 5th, which is today. Traditionally, or not traditionally, it was going to go through the 18th, but now it's extended to the 19th because I want to make sure you have time to actually get a draft ready to meet with me for conferencing. So in this lecture today, okay, important one, to pair with your textbook reading, because I do want to remind you all that I really do believe in the curious researcher. So if you are not reading in detail, if you're trying to just skim over it to get the quiz out of the way, I really want to encourage you to take some time with this assigned chapter because it gives you all kinds of tips and tricks toward really heading into the essay in a strong way, okay? But anyway, what's in this module? Here we go. That's what we're going to do first. I'll go over what we're doing in Module 5. I want to talk a little bit about the essay conceptually, give you some thoughts on organization, point you to some resources, show you the rubric of how the final beautiful thing, the 22% of your grade, how it's going to be graded. And then I want to just give you a rundown of what the rest of the semester is going to look like, because we're on the downhill, guys. If you've gotten through the annotated bib, you've gotten through the hardest part, promise. All right, in this module, you had your reading, which is really just Chapter 4. I keep looking over here, Chapter 4 of The Curious Researcher. Read it. Okay, super important. You're going to take that reading quiz. The discussion for this module is all in service to you drafting for the essay. So the discussion is actually you drafting different types of leads, which you'll have read about, or introductions. And then you have the draft for conferencing due by the 19th, and you can have up until then to turn it in. I will be giving you a sign-up sheet for Module 6. To be able to meet with me to talk about your draft, okay? So look for that. That'll be coming to you soon, so you can go ahead and claim your spot. And I want to make sure it's going to be a time that works for you. So if you're someone that has a really busy schedule, know that I will make time work for you. We'll work something out because I want to be able to give you feedback face-to-face and answer any questions that you have as we head toward drafting and making this final essay awesome. So that's what we're looking at for this module. Heading into now thinking about the essay, you're like, what now? I've gotten a couple of messages already. People are like, okay, when's the final essay due? Well, we're just working on the final essay the entire rest of the semester, really, okay? So let's take a deep breath and take your time because this is meant to be great. Now, I've thought about, creating a prompt for this essay, but it doesn't really make sense for me to create a prompt when everyone has such a different question, and that's the whole point of a research class. So really when you think, well, what am I supposed to be doing in this essay? Well, you're supposed to be answering your research question, okay? Which is why I keep asking you about it, asking you to reconsider it, think about it, and even in this chapter of Reading in the Curious Researcher, you're asked to tweak it, So really, sincerely, when you have a good, solid, strong inquiry question, that is implicitly going to give you a strong thesis statement. Because when you have a strong question, you'll be able to flip it, right? Mirror the language of your question to create your thesis. That's why I keep saying, make sure your question's not yes or no, because if the question is this the cause of a social justice issue? Well, your answer is going to be, yes, it is the cause, or no, it isn't the cause. And that's not complicated or interesting. So you want to make sure that you have a question that's not a yes, no, maybe kind of answer. You want to have something that you can answer complexly, All right, so check out the textbook suggestions about that, and make sure that you're able to create a thesis statement. Even if you don't have it nailed down just yet, make sure you're able to flip the language of your question so that you can have a strong thesis statement. Okay. Now, this is big. The essay is big. You'll see when we get to talking about the rubric that I'm looking for at least 8 to 10 solid pages of writing, so not including the works cited page. Some people are like, oh, that's easy, I've done that. Others of you will be freaking out, okay? Don't freak out. It's doable, okay? Can be done. It's not a problem. Promise. You're going to have to cut back if you're heading toward this the right way, I think. Okay, so how you organize this essay is really all going to be based on whether you're arguing or exploring, which is why I keep asking you about your purpose. So here's a reminder. If you're arguing, you're making an argument, you're writing a persuasive essay, your thesis statement is really saying something about what you want your reader to do or think about a certain topic, right? What you want them to do or think about something, or what others should do or think about something. If you're exploring, writing an exploratory essay, you're helping your reader understand or appreciate what you find interesting or complex about a topic. So if you're just learning about it because you didn't know anything about it, okay, you're exploring. In terms of guidance for actual organization of your essay, pages 116 to 120 in the textbook give you some really interesting figures to look at. I do also have some outline suggestions that I'm considering throwing your way from a previous publication of The Curious Researcher, but I didn't want you to feel pigeonholed by that right now. So I might share that with you later. But right now, see what you can do with what's suggested with those figures and give it your best shot, because I think that everyone's will end up looking a little different, and you don't need to feel like you have to write exactly around what is suggested. But I think that the basic outline that's in the textbook for either an argument or an exploration is a really good place to start. Okay, at least start there, and then you can make adjustments as you work with your material. That's how I've seen it done, at least best in the past. I just want to harp on this one thing, and this was in the reading quiz too. I know we are all most likely, and I remember this too, coming from K through 12 education system where you are taught to write that 5-paragraph essay. And you're taught to write that way because it's really easy to grade, okay? And really easy to kind of standardize and have you prove a specific skill set. But at this point, I want you to think about the fact that in your own reading and your own research, whether it be academic articles or even just things in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, do you ever see anything organized in a 5-paragraph essay style? Dora the Explorer. Do you? No, that's right, you don't. Okay? It's just not the best way to do it when we're writing at this level, okay? You might have some professors in other disciplines that ask you for that, but it's because it's a completely different situation here. In writing a research essay, not a research report, you're not gonna do this, okay? You're not doing this. Don't do it, okay? Don't do that. And I put it, there of do not do this, no, because I've given this lecture before in person in class, and I had a student take a picture of this and think this is what I was telling them to do, okay? No. You'll also note that really the thesis that's established here of China is a really big country, it's not even a thesis, that's just a fact. There's no arguing, I don't know, it's weird, it's super basic. So, telling you, don't do this, don't do it. Don't do it. I want to take a moment too and talk a little bit of word nerd stuff about research writing being recursive. Okay, research writing is recursive, and recursive meaning characterized by repetition. If we look at the Latin, it's from the root to run back or to return. I bring this up because you've done a lot of research at this point. Like, you've read and worked with at least 7 sources. But if you feel like you need to do more research, do it. You are not married to the 7 sources that you turned in for your annotated bibliography. You don't have to use any of them if you don't want to. I hope that you do. Like, I hope that they've been helpful and are in service to you answering your question. But if you needed to throw them all out because you're just like, this is not really where I want to go anymore, you're welcome to do that, okay? Because research writing is recursive, meaning we run it back, we make adjustments, okay? So use what's good, throw out what's bad, find new stuff, okay? Especially right now, those of you that are working with global social justice issues that are happening literally right now and developing right now, feel free to stay on the lookout in the news, okay? Because, the more accurate we can be with new publication material, the more interesting our essays will be and more timely. Now, your research essay, with all the stuff that the textbook talks about, I just wanted to bring your attention to what it must include, okay? So regardless of how you organize it, this is what I'm looking for as a must in what makes an essay a research essay, right? You'll see these things broken down in the rubric as well, but here they are just at the most basic, okay, most basic. So if I was gonna give you a prompt, it would be your question with these things. So you need a soft essay, one freaking thing, which is just one central claim. You need to be focused on one thing, okay? Second is a review of what's been said by others about your particular topic. What's been said? What's being said? Third is specific information, evidence or data in which your interpretations, conclusions are based. So support, right? So what others are saying, but then specifically how you're supporting your own claim here, okay? So that they're connected, but they're different. And then fourth and finally, this seems a little hippy-dippy, but I think it's important to consider, a method of reasoning through the question, some pattern of thought, narrative, argument, that the writer and reader find a convincing way to try to get to the truth of things. This is really meaning, is your voice here? Is your voice in this? Is your reader following you through it? Which is why I really do want to encourage you to use first person. Okay, use first person. Be a presence in this essay to show us that it's your interest in the content that's driving you to write it. Even if it's an argument, okay? Exploration, that makes sense. Argumentative, I know you've most likely been taught most of your academic life not to use I in an essay, but you even see you see first person in academic sources, in magazine articles, because we want to be connected with the person that's writing it. And so that method of reasoning through your question, that pattern of thought, I have seen that be most effective, and that's what I'm offering to you as if we think back to the very beginning of our Curious Researcher reading. That example essay that Ballinger wrote, and please go back and look at it if you want, seemed very personal, right? Because he was writing in his own voice, and we were following his experiences, speaking in first person, okay? So I'm going to be looking for that. If you really don't want to use first person for whatever reason, you don't have to, but I'm probably not going to find it as convincing as if you did, okay? Just putting that out there. We'll work through it. I really want you to just try it. Important note about sources. I know that I put this in the annotated bibliography prompt, okay? But I was seeing some sources already come in where I don't think people were paying attention to the publication date. This is actually really important in terms of Kairos. If you remember anything about rhetoric, if you did watch my lecture on rhetoric, to be reminded all about that timing of publication. We really do want to try to keep publication dates of articles that we're using within 10 years. Okay, so right now it's 2021. So really 10 years ago, it's 2011, right? I'll take 2010. But really we don't want to go much older than that because that information is outdated. If you really want to use it, you can, but you have to contextualize in your essay that they're old, okay? Or that you really can't find anything newer. So keep it within 10 years, please, or at least have reasoning if it is older. Because if I don't see you doing that work, I'm going to assume you didn't pay attention to that, and then you're not really writing within the confines of academia, okay? Keep that in mind. Okay, now for the rubric. Deep breath. Here we go. I'll try to make this painless. This final essay, the final essay that's due in May, is worth 220 points, which is 22% of your final grade. It is weighted so heavily because at this point, really because you've got a lot of other things competing for your time, I see students kind of just drop off the planet. I know I use that term a lot, but that's the only nice way I can think about saying it. But anyway, students will just end up turning in something that looks like a 5-paragraph essay after all of this stuff that we do. So make sure you don't do that. Use the rubric to your advantage, all right? You see that these 3 groupings here are almost even in point value, but they also all work together. But use this as your checklist, okay? So first of all, we've got the basics. I'm looking at this right here, the basics, which I have included in brackets what Ballinger says is important to have in an essay, a research essay 100%. So basics covers your soft and your method of reasoning, right, your voice. But that's also kind of touched on in organization style and format. But I put that up there just to remind you. So I'm looking for an intriguing title, something that's not just research essay or your question, okay? A rhetorically purposeful introduction, so that lead that we're working on in discussion for this module. So no standardized test moves of, since the beginning of time, there have been problems. One specific problem is this in this country, right? We've seen that, Throw that away. We're going to try new stuff. A clear thesis statement that obviously responds to your thoughtful research question. I don't want to see any questions in your essay, but I want to make sure that your thesis is obviously based on that question that you set up to answer in the beginning, okay? The structure of the essay has obviously been planned, okay? Considering that curious researcher, considering those figures that help you kind of think about the structure of your essay, and a purposeful ending. The chapter that we read for this module talks about that purposeful ending and not just summarizing the essay, all right? If I've already read it, why are you telling me again? I know this is pretty much like telling you to unlearn what you've been taught, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? You've got to unlearn it a little bit because standardized testing at that high school level or that basic level, it's not what we're doing anymore when we're writing research essays, okay? So moving on to this second one here, interpretation, analysis, and control. That hits the review of what's been said by others and specific information on which your interpretations are based. So this is all of your research work. Super important here. This is make or break. You'll see that I have worked seamlessly with at least 6 sources. So at least 6, okay? 2 of them need to be academic or scholarly at the very least. Insightful connections and observations between writer's commentary and sources in order to support the thesis. All in order to support that thesis. I need to see you demonstrating standard American quotation mechanics, okay? So really do pay attention to what's been brought up in the textbook about quoting material and do it the right way. Because if you don't, that really does show the seams. It shows that you don't know how to handle source work. So pay attention to that, all right? And that's something we can talk about in our conferences if it makes you uncomfortable, if you're not used to it. Finally, I put no plagiarism here because I've had students in the past plagiarize and then say, well, it wasn't on the rubric, that we couldn't do that, which is a ridiculous argument because it's in the syllabus, but I put it here to remind you to always cite your sources, quote language that isn't yours, all right? Don't just rearrange the words and then call it your own, because honestly, our Turnitin like plagiarism tracker like catches that. So don't do that, all right? It's going to take you longer to do that than it would be to just write something that's yours. So that's that portion there is control of your quotations and source work, all right? Control. Finally, organization style and format. This is getting you points for creating paragraphs that are coherent, using word choice that is precise, varied, and exhibits an appropriate tone, grammar and spelling, run it through spell check. But here are the other things of no second person. We naturally talk in second person when we give examples. So, you don't want to do this. This is what you need to do. Don't use you here, all right? I know that there's an example or two in the textbook where Ballinger talks about the option of like calling attention to your reader by using you, but I really don't think that's a strong move. So I really want to ask you not to do that because that's something you're used to doing. So don't do that this time, okay? No second person, but use first person to establish your own ethos, all right? Do that. Correctly formatted. This says MLA or APA. I really want it in MLA, all right? If you're desperate to write your essay in APA for some reason, talk to me about it, but then it means you're going to have to change all of your citations to APA as well. So please just use MLA, okay? For me, for you, and for each other, okay? Looking for that 8 to 10 page length requirement without adding anything sneaky, because I know the whole trick. I mean, again, I'm not that far out of my education to not remember that I definitely did the whole trick where you make the periods and commas, make all your punctuation like a size 18, and so you can't really tell, but it does add like half a page of length to your essay. Don't do that to me, okay? Because I can tell, or I'll adjust it and be able to see that you did that. So don't do that, because that's technically plagiarism for me, or not plagiarism, but like that's technically academic dishonesty, okay? That's academic dishonesty if you do that. So don't do that, and don't do that to your like younger professors that know those tricks too. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But I do need to see that beautifully crafted works cited page. And the exciting thing is, if you use the sources from your annotated bib and you've perfected those citations, you can just copy and paste the citations onto your works cited page. I do not need those annotations again. I just need the citations of the sources that you use. Okay, that is your rubric. That is your rubric. Here's my last slide to remind you not to give up. You're almost done. Again, annotated bib is usually when students kind of fall off the planet. But if you've made it here, then you're in good shape. But now don't fall off the planet as we work on drafting. Your draft that you need to turn in for conferencing, I've already put on there that it can be any length you like. So I've had some students turn in one paragraph. I've had some students turn in the whole essay, and then a lot of in between. I will say the longer of a draft you turn in, the better situation you'll be in when you work toward the final, okay? Because this is the only time I can really 100% promise you that you'll get like ridiculously solid feedback from me, both written and verbal. So make this count, okay? Make this draft that you turn in for conferencing count. You could even pretend it's due then, and then really push to get it done, and then we'll just be working with making it even more awesome the last month of class together. We're going to have an individual conference at some point during Module 6. Okay, we'll meet for about 15 minutes, less if you don't need it, but you'll sign up for that very, very soon. Module 7 is when you're going to work on perfecting that final essay after workshopping it with your peers. How exciting. We'll get to read each other's stuff too. And then the final module, during finals week, we are going to schedule out some kind of service learning presentation of this awesome research that you've done. All right, so stay tuned for that. I'll probably send out a doodle poll or something to see what dates and times work best for you all. And it'll be awesome. So anyway, work on those essays. I hope you are taking a deep breath now that you're hopefully finished with or finishing that annotated bibliography. Thanks for hanging in there. And also thank you for your patience in me getting this lecture up since my internet and my power was out yesterday. But anyway, please reach out if you have questions. Thanks so much, y'all. Good luck.